Pasuk Yutet in Perek Aleph of Megilat Rut.
Señor.
Says the Pasuk, Vatelachna shetehem ad bo'ana Bet Lachem. So both of them went on their way towards Bet Lechem. Vahi kevo'ana Bet Lechem. And when they arrived in Bet Lechem, Vatehom kol ha'ir alehen. The entire nation was abuzz. They were all stirred and they were wondering, oh my God, this is crazy. It's like a shock. Vatomarna hazot Naomi. And they said, can that be Naomi? So Rashi here in number 41, the Rashi on the Pasuk, says, Amar Rabbi Abhu, Bo ure kama chavibim agerim lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look how beloved the gerim are, the converts are to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kevan shenitna da'ata leitgayer, that once Ruth gave herself to convert and she was willing to enter the Jewish nation, Hishva ota hakatuv leNaomi. The pasuk equates her with Naomi, who was a born Jewess. Okay?
So how do we know? Talking about?
Look at the pasuk. Vatelachna shtehem. They both went together. So now, no longer is it Ruth Hamoaviyah, no longer is it Naomi separate. They're now shtehem. Now they're together. HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers Ruth equal now to Naomi. That's how much he cares and beloves the converts. Rashi over here says in the 42, the second Rashi, which is Vatehom kol ha'ir. Why was the city considered? Why were they stirred? Why were they all there? How did everybody? I'll take later. Thank you. How did everybody get to see this moment? And Rashi here says, Kulam nitkabetzu likbor ishto shel Boaz shemeta bo bayom. That on that day that Naomi and Ruth entered Bethlehem, the wife of Boaz died. And the wife of Boaz.
Oh, Boaz.
The wife of Boaz died, and they all were gathered to bury her at the Levaya. And at that moment, they saw Naomi coming with Ruth. So it's a well-known dictum in the Chazal, and the Chachamim tell us that before HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the mahala, he already sends the refuah. So before anything else continues, here's some more sheets for those that walked in. All right, from last week. We'll give new sheets when we finish the Perek. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is already planning the Geulah. He's planning Mashiach already, right? Boaz thinks this is the worst day of his life. His wife just died. Right. He doesn't know what's about to happen. Who comes in with Naomi is Ruth, the girl he's going to marry. He doesn't even know yet. Okay, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu has his plans. And finally, the last Rashi on the pasuk, number 43, Hazot Naomi. So you have to read it. Rashi says, Nekuda Hataf. The hay has a nekuda of bitmiyah. You have to ask it, is that really Naomi? Sheregila latzet bitzavim ubepradim. Naomi used to go out in wagons and with mules. She was a respected woman. Chazitem alta Allah. Look what happened to her. She went to Chutz La'aretz. So looking, they couldn't believe what they're seeing. Naomi, she's wearing ripped clothing. Who knows what she was wearing? She didn't look like who she was. So, Pasuk Kaf, which is on number Mem Dalet, Batomer Alehen, Al Tikrena li Naomi. Naomi says, don't call me Naomi. Don't longer call me Naomi. Kirena li Mara. Call me Mara. Mara means bitter. Ki hemar shadai li meod, because Hashem has made my lot very bitter. And she continues, Ani meleah halachti. When I left Bethlehem, I left full. See what that means? Vereka meshivani Hashem, and I came back empty. Lama tikrena li Naomi, vadonai anabi veshadai herali. Why are you going to call me Naomi when Hashem dealt harshly with me and brought misfortune? This is a second pair. That's the first one. Want to put it here?
I want to put it here.
Yeah, sure. So again, Naomi, listen, what she went through in her life, it's easy to say not to complain, okay, but she felt she needed to vent a little bit. Okay, here she lost her husband, she lost her two sons, she says, I left when I was full, and I came back empty. And Rashi says in Mem Vav, Melea alachti be'oser ubanim, I left with money and with children. Davar acher she'ayta me'uberet. Not only that, Rashi says she was pregnant when she left, and now she probably have lost that child. So it was a disaster 10 years for Naomi. And then, it's easy to judge others when they complain, why you complain. But when you go through 10 years of that, you have the right thing. And the Chachamim, and I was looking at it, the Chachamim don't accuse her of any wrong. I haven't found any sources that say, she shouldn't have said that. It's maybe the great tzaddikim like the Avot, when they complain a little bit, they can get. When Yaakov was on a different level, right? Yaakov, yes, right. Yaakov complained 30 words, he lost 30 years of his life. 33 words, he lost 33 years of his life. Okay, Yaakov was on a different level, but you got to give it to her, and really, what else can you say other than she had a tough 10 years. Vatashov Naomi. Verut Moaviyah kalata imma hashava miste Moav. We're now in 47. Pasuk Kav Bet says that Naomi and Ruth and Moaviyah, her daughter-in-law, went back again. Vehem abau Bethlehem bitchilat ketzir seorim, and they arrived in Bethlehem in the beginning of the harvest. Season. So the Malbim here says, looking at the Mem Tet over here, that we'll look at it outside. This is the last pasuk of the Perek. It says that the fact that Naomi, it repeats again that Naomi returned from the fields of Moab, that she held on to her fields. She held on to her fields, and although she left 10 years ago, okay, it's very simple for a person to maybe leave what they had, but no, it seems based on what the Malbim is explaining that she still had her ancestral fields that belonged to her husband, and she went back to those fields to give her some sort of. Now the fields were probably in bad shape, but this is something that she had to go back, and that's why the pasuk refers to Ruth again as Moaviyah here, because she herself was zocha to those fields as a result that she was a daughter-in-law of Naomi. Because she was a daughter-in-law of Naomi, she had a right to those. She had a right to those fields, and she was only a daughter-in-law of Naomi when she was a Ruth Moaviyah. So that's how the Malbim explains why she's why she was referred to that. She also brings a midrash over here that says that Ruth was the first person ever to come from Moab and convert and fulfill the teaching of Amoni velo Amonit, Moavi velo Moaviyah. The Torah tells us that no matter how much you try, a Moavi man and an Amoni man cannot convert. The Gemara says, Torah tells us they cannot convert.
Even if they want to.
Even if they want to. After 100 years they can't convert. Why? Because they didn't give bread, water, and provisions to the Jewish people when they were traveling in the desert. That's how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about Hakarat HaTov, gratitude. The fact that they didn't show that, they can never convert. Hitler Yemach Shemo, if he was alive, okay, he could convert if he wanted to, okay. However, I'm giving the extreme case just thing, but he wasn't Ammon Moab. Right? If Hitler did full teshuvah, I don't know whatever, but he could convert to Judaism. Again, I don't know if he'll be accepted. He'll probably be Amalek. An Amaleki could convert to Judaism.
No, we
don't know what he is nowadays, but I'm saying I just don't think he's from Ammon Moab. But an Amaleki could convert. A Mitzri after 10 years could convert. Moab and Ammon cannot convert. So the Gemara asks, Rut. This was a famous story brought down the Gemara. Agagi, right? We have Doega Adomi, who felt that David HaMelech was illegitimate because he came from Ruth, and Ruth was a Moaviyah. So how was he able to convert? It's a whole big story in the Gemara, and the Gemara comes to a conclusion that when the Torah says that a Moavi cannot convert, it's a male Moavi. It says Moavi, not Moaviyah, not a woman. the women are allowed to convert. Why are the women allowed to convert? Right? Gemara asked a question. Where were the women? If the women, if the men didn't give out the food, so the women were also guilty. He said, no. The women stayed at home. Even the ways of the goyim back then, the women stayed at home. It wasn't expected of them to go and hand out provisions to the men. That was something that was unheard of back then, that the women left the house or go out in the streets to give people things. So you cannot blame the women for not giving the food to the Jews. And therefore, the women are allowed to convert, and that's why Ruth was kosher for her conversion, and therefore David HaMelech is kosher, and then everything is good. Okay? So Ruth was the first person to use this idea of Moavi velo Moaviyah in the world. Okay? That's what the Malbim brings over here.
So, small question. The conversion at that time, I'm assuming, is completely different from what we have today.
Yes.
So, Naomi, you don't need like witnesses or something to convert another person?
Her 4 words.
It seems that those conversions were enough. Now, whether Naomi did more behind the scenes and brought her to a mikveh, probably did. But you guys want to pass back these sheets and I'll hand new ones. She probably did. And, the pasuk doesn't describe it. But in essence, there needs to be a verbal declaration. And that's probably what those psukim were. So here's one. So with that said, we'll begin the second Perek. Now that we have a good understanding of who these people are, who are the subjects at hand, and we'll now begin the process of Ruth finding her husband, which again is all just a leading up to David HaMelech. That's what we want to get to. Okay, so here we are. Number 1, Pasuk Aleph in Perek Bet. Ul Naomi moda leisha. Naomi had a relative on her husband's side. Ish gibor hayil. He was a strong man. Mimishpachat Elimelech, from the family of Elimelech. Usmo Boaz. The name of this man was Boaz. So Rashi here in number 2 says that he tries to explain what the word moda means. He says moda is a karov. It's a relative. That ben achiv shel Elimelech haya. This Boaz was the nephew of Elimelech, her husband. So it was her own nephew too, by marriage. And the Chachamim, and Rashi quotes the Chazal, say something amazing here. Amru Rabotenu, Elimelech, 1. Salmon, 2. Avi Boaz, the father of Boaz, and Ploni Almoni. Ploni Almoni is going to be the man who is first in line to marry Ruth, based on the laws of Yibum, okay, of a levirate marriage. Ploni Almoni is first in line. Anyway, so these 4 men, we have again Elimelech, which is the father-in-law of Ruth. Salmon, Abi Boaz, okay, Salmon was the father of Boaz. Ploni Almoni, that's the third one. Hagoel, that's why he's called the Redeemer. He's called the Goel, the guy who's going to redeem Ruth. He's referred to as a Redeemer. And the 4th guy, Avi Naomi, the father of Naomi. So the father of Naomi and the father of Elimelech were brothers. So therefore Naomi and Elimelech were first cousins. They got married first cousins, like the Sfaradim. They get married first cousins, yeah? So all those 4 people, Kulam bene Nachshon ben Aminadav. Remember Nachshon ben Aminadav? He was the guy to first go in the water, in the Yam Suf. Right? The water came up to his neck, then that was him. So these 4 individuals, again, Elimelech, Salmon, the father of Boaz, Ploni Almoni, and the father of Naomi, were all the sons of Nachshon ben Aminadav. And even with that, even you have the zechut that your grandfather or great-grandfather Nachshon ben Aminadav, lo ho'ilu lahem zechut avotam betzetam me'aretz lechutz haaretz. You left Eretz Israel, no one's going to protect you.
How many years are you talking?
Well, it could be. They say that Nachshon Aminadav lived a long time. He lived a long time.
We're talking about maybe 600 years.
At least?
Maybe it's not. You can maybe argue that it's not a literal meaning. It could be just they come from Nachshon ben Aminadav. right? And they are just a direct lineage to him.
But
It
that-
seems that these people were all related, though.
That's a proof that they come from Yehuda.
Yes, yes,
David comes from Yehuda.
yeah. All right, pasuk bet number 3. Vatomer Rut Moaviyah el Naomi. Notice how the pasuk again here refers to Ruth as Ha-Moaviyah. We'll see why. Well, we should be forgetting the fact that she's a Moaviyah. So why? Vatomer Rut Moaviyah Naomi. Ruth speaks to Naomi and says, I got an idea. We're here. We got no food. We got nothing. Elchana Sadeh Valakota Bashibolim. I'm going to go to the field, and I'm going to go collect grain.
Yeah, but how did she know about this?
That's right. So we're going to see. Achad Hashem sachen be'einav. So maybe someone's going to show some kindness to me. Someone's going to notice me, show me kindness. Vatomer la, she said, Lechi biti, go my daughter. So Rashi says here, Elchana Sadeh le'achad misadot ansha'ir. I'm going to go to one of the fields of the people. Acharei echad mehem Hashem sachen be'einav shelo yik'ar bi. Right? And I'm going to try to find some guy that's going to find favor in me, and he's not going to get upset at me. That was her goal. Her goal was, I'm just going to hope that someone's not going to care that I'm going.
Can we backtrack a little bit? Boaz is not the grandson of Perez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why he went all the way up to Nachshon?
When I'm done with Nachshon,
And not to Yehuda, which is more...
maybe. I don't know. Good question. Good question. Good question. All right. So let's look at. Hey, look at the Malbim. A beautiful Malbim here. Amazing. This one we're going to read inside. So again, Malbim is going to explain. It gives a beautiful insight here. Vatomer Rut mesaper tzidkat Rut vetiv midotea. This pasuk alone tells you the righteousness of Ruth and how great her midot were. Now you read the pasuk at first hand, you're like, okay, what's the big deal? She told her mother-in-law, I'm going to go collecting. Like, well, what's the big deal over here? Look what he says. She'agam shehaita emuna alai tola. Look at the emuna that Ruth had. Udat Chazal, first of all, according to the Chachamim, and we explained this in last class, Haita bat melech Moab. Ruth was the daughter of the king of Moab, Eglon. We talked about that last week. Yet, hiskima lalechet lilkot keachad anim. She agreed to go collect grain, leket, like one of the poor people.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay? Leket is one of the mitzvot that if she picks, that if a poor person leaves 2 stalks, then the poor person is allowed to pick up 1 or 2. If it's 3 or more, the poor person cannot pick up. Shelo. That's what Boaz is gonna realize. He's gonna see that. Not only that, Beshelo chavtza shegam chamota telech ima. She did not want her mother-in-law to go with her. Shedai bizayon uchlima achar shenod'a ba'ir hazot gveret va'ashira. Because everybody knew her mother-in-law as a very, very chashuv woman, a wealthy woman. V'kibla al atzma shehi telech b'she'en makirim ota. She goes, you know what, I'm going to go myself. Because nobody knows me. No one knows who I am. If I tell my mother-in-law let's go together, it's embarrassing for her. She'al zeh amar vatomer Rut Moaviyah. That's why the pasuk says, Rut Moaviyah told her mother-in-law. Rotzeh lomar shehi mimdina acheret. I'm from a different country. I just converted. Nobody knows who I am. Velo tevosh, velo tefarnes et chamota bechavod. And I don't want her to be embarrassed, and I don't want them. And vehi tefarnes et chamota bechavod. And I want to give parnasah to my mother-in-law with respect, not that she should be embarrassed. Ve'amra elchana asadeh. And she said, I'm going to go to the field. I'm not going to go to the vineyard. Sheyesh sham sakana la'alot be'ilanot, to climb up trees. I'm going to collect the grain. I'm only going to take the leket where people, where the anim are not makpid. And I'm going to specifically go to the ones that I'm fine. So look at this pasuk. A very simple pasuk that you read, and then look what Ruth is thinking in the back of her mind, not to embarrass her mother, or I'm going to give her parnasah bekavod. She was willing to go there, even though she's going to be thought of as a pauper. Nonetheless, this is what's all was on her mind. Says pasuk gimel, vatelech vatavo vatelaket pasadeh. Off she went. She came, grabbed, she gleaned in the field. Acharei kotzrim vayiker mikreach chelkat hasadeh leBoaz. Look what happened. Where does she end up? Boaz's field. Nothing is coincidence here. Nothing is coincidence. Achar mi mishpachat Elimelech who was part of Elimelech's family. All right. Again, the Ralbag here in number 7 says she went to collect the leket, which is like what the Aniyim would collect. Pasuk Dalet, which is number 8. Vehine Boaz ba mitlechem, ba mi Betlechem. Boaz came from Betlechem. Vayom el hakotzrim, Hashem imachem. Boaz came to Betlechem and he told those that were harvesting, may God be with you. Vayomru lo yivarechecha Hashem. And they responded back, yivarechecha Hashem. Now this is the source where we say this before we get Aliyah LaTorah. So what happened here? So there's a background story to this, brought down in the Gemara, which we'll read in the Malbim number 10. We're learning something new over here. The Malbim says, first of all, Boaz was not accustomed to go in his field often. Boaz was the CEO. He owned the fields. He was the CEO. He had managers, and then he had workers, just like a normal company. And it happened to be, it just happened to be that Boaz was going into the field at that time when Ruth was there. All because Hashem wanted this to happen. Boaz ba mi Betlechem. That's why the pasuk says he came from Betlechem. Vayomel hakotzrim Hashem imachem. And he called out to the people Hashem imachem. Now why is this? Chazal Amru, the rabbis explain, Boaz u bet dino tiknu, that Boaz and his bet din, because Boaz was the shofet. We said that last class. They established and they made a decree, sheyu shoalim shalom chavero b'shem, that whenever you greet your fellow, you greet him with the name of Hashem. That was his decree. Hashem Achem. Or they would probably say even God's name. They would say Hashem's name. V'aya ba'atzat Sanhedrin. And this was with the advice of the Sanhedrin. So Gemara says, V'chitema Boaz midatan nafshe avid. Did he do this on his own? Ki ene askir Shem shamayim levatala. You say God's name in vain. You're walking around saying Yud Kei Vav Kei anytime you want. How can you do this? So he explains, Mashakatu besifra. He goes on. All right. Ach, first line. Birotam az shehaya benehem, shayu benehem gezel mishpat vatzedek. There was a lot of gezel. There was a lot of robbery, thievery amongst the people at that time. People were going to be stealing things, dvarim. It wasn't good. V'gam el shoftehem lo shamu. They also didn't even hear the shoftim. That's what we said in last class. They used to judge the judges. They did no respect for the judges. כמו שכתוב, ויהי ממושבות השבטים. וכאשר נתמנה בועז לשופט, so when Boaz was appointed shofet, תיקן שיהיו שואלים שלום חברו בשם, the first thing he did is, hey guys, from now on, you see a friend, mention God's name. לקבוע בליבם, כי השם משמיים משקיף עליהם והשלומם. So that you are constantly aware that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching you, at all times. Because when you greet your friend, Hashem Achem, and you mention God's name, now you're going to think twice before going to his field and taking something. This is what he had to do. And he fixed the problem. Maybe that's why a person goes up to the Sefer Torah, the aliyot of the Sefer Torah were usually given to the Talmidei Chachamim. That's what it was given. So now, the guy goes up and he says, Hashem Machem, he's basically saying, listen, I'm humbling myself over here. I understand God's will. Maybe I don't deserve this aliyah. Maybe I don't, The first thing that he says is, you know what? I'm giving a blessing to you guys. Hashem Machem. Right? I'm going up to the Torah, but I'm going to bless you guys first. May God be with you.
Why aren't you accustomed to saying Hashem's name when you go up to the Torah?
So that there are people that actually recite the Yud Kei Vav Kei or the Shem Adnut. They actually say it. There's room. The Rav says it's okay, but because it's not the full pasuk, most people just say Hashem Imachem, right? But
what is the full pasuk?
Well, Hashem Imachem is just a part of this past pasuk. It's not really the full pasuk, and it's an entirety, right? So the whole pasuk is Ve'ineh Boaz ba mi Betlechem vayom el hakotzrim Hashem Imachem. Hashem Imachem is just a portion of the pasuk.
But can't you just make? I mean, by now they've already made it where Hashem Imachem is a pasuk.
No, it's not. There's no pasuk in the entire Tanakh with just those two words. right?
I thought that Hashem Imachem is for the Shaliach, so he doesn't make mistakes.
Oh yeah, they would say Hashem imcha. I don't know about imachem.
For his sake.
Yeah.
Some people pronounce the name of Hashem, the real
Yeah,
one.
as I said.
It's not
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There are people that say it's okay if they do it. Especially for Sfaradim. Especially for Sfaradim. Sfaradim are more lenient when it comes to quoting a pasuk and saying Hashem's name. You'll never go into an Ashkenazi school or an Ashkenazi yeshiva. I know there are probably maybe people listening to me or when I post this, but the Ashkenazim are very makbid, never to say Hashem's name.
Oh yeah?
When they're learning. The Sfaradim used to say Hashem's name when they were learning Torah. They used to say the whole pasuk with Hashem's
Well,
name.
why not? It's allowed.
Yeah, because they're learning Torah. As long as you're in the form of learning Torah, then it's fine. So anyway, that's a little difference between Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. Okay, moving on to number 10, because we want to make some ground to catch up. Vayomer Boaz leNa'aro. Boaz tells his servant Hanitzav ala kotzrim, who was in charge of the kotzrim. So again, he's telling the manager, Lemi hana'ara azot. Who's that woman? Who's that girl? Girl, better think. So, good question, yeah? What's the problem?
He was looking at a woman.
Says Rashi,
That chick.
וכי דרכו של בועז לשאול בנשים. The Boaz is the shofet. He's the gadol ador. He's the greatest generation. He's going around looking at ladies all day. You go, what's going on? He's what kind of question is that? Ela, this has come to answer your question. Ela divrei tzniut v'chochma ra'aba. He saw two things. He saw modesty and he saw chochma with Ruth. How? Shete shibolim lakta. She took 2 stalks of grain, and she didn't take 3. Not only so that was the chokhmah. She knew the laws of the aniyim, and yet he never saw this girl before. He never saw. So this caused him to wonder, who is this girl? Not only that, v'ayta melaketet omdot me'umad. The standing, the ones that were standing, she took standing. V'shochvot meyushav kedei shelo tischer. And the ones that were lying, the grain that was lying, she didn't bend down. Because bending down is not tzniut. It caused men to look, right? So what did she do? She crouched, she sat. She either crouched, kneeled like a bat catcher in baseball, kind of like that, so her dress would be would not expose her any part of her body, or she sat on the ground. Rashi says she sat.
Days,
Like the good old days, you know? And, but this is what it is. So he saw this, goes, "Lemia nahara azot." Who is this this girl? I've never seen something like this. So not to chas v'shalom think that he was going looking at girls. Chas v'shalom, it's not what happened. Says pasuk vav number 12. Vayan. So vayan anar. The servant says, "Hanitzav al kotzrim vayomar na'ara moaviyahi." You know that girl? She's a Moabite woman.
You just said that if she's going to go to the field, nobody know who she is.
No, she did say, "I want someone to find favor in my eyes. I want someone just to maybe notice me and maybe treat me nicely. I don't want to sacrifice my mother-in-law's honor for that. I'm going to keep her at home, but no one knows me. If I can find someone that
Because they answered him in specific that Ruth Moaviyah, they actually gave a description.
Yes.
So they were not supposed to recognize her.
How did they know?
How did they know?
They must have seen her. They must have seen her. Yeah. Yeah. There's conversations behind this thing. So we'll see. Let's see what she says in the next. But again, first we have pasuk vav. So he says. The manager says, "No, this is Na'ara Moabiyah. He Hashavah im Naomi miste Moab. This is the Moabite girl that came with Naomi, from the fields of Moab." So I guess they must have seen when they saw Naomi. They saw the Ruth with her, right? So now at this moment, Ruth says something. Rashi says though that she said this in her heart. She was thinking this to herself. It was like a little tefillah almost. She didn't say this out loud. But let's look at number 13, pasuk zayin. Vatomer, she said, "Aloktan be'asapti ba'omerim." Please, she's saying to herself, "Let me go gather among the grain. Acharei kotzrim v'ta'avo v'ta'amod me'az haboker ve'ad ata." So then what ended up happening? She was literally collecting from the morning on her feet. Ze shifta habayit me'at. She barely even rested. She was just collecting, and no one bothered her. So there was a little tefillah that she prayed that actually worked. So Rashi, the Ralbag says in number,
I didn't understand.
because Rashi says it was belibah. She didn't actually say this out loud to anybody. She was kind of like giving this little, please, let me just collect in peace in a way, and then no one bother me. So Zeh Shafta Habayit Me'at, Ralbag says, Zeh Hora Zrizutal V'Acharitzuta Le'egor Mi'ochla Be'et Asher Timsa B'yada. She didn't stop. This was a zrizut. She needed food. She needed food for her mother-in-law. And as tired as she was on her field, you can imagine this is Eretz Yisrael in Bethlehem in the summertime. It is hot outside, right? No cloud, no shade. She continued, she persisted. And Boaz realizes this. He notices this.
120 in the shade.
And finally Boaz tells her in Pasuk Chet, number 16, Vayomer Boaz Rut. Boaz tells Rut, Hello, Shamat biti, listen to me, my daughter. Calls her daughter. Al telechi lilkot besadeh acher. I don't want you going to collect in anybody else's field. Vegam lo ta'avuri mizeh. Don't go anywhere else. Vechot tidbakin im na'arotai. Stay here close to my girls. So it seems that maybe Boaz either had daughters, Boaz had servants that were women. He's telling her, stay next to the girls that work for me, or maybe it was his own family. Why? Says the Ralbag in Yud Zayin, that he was worried. He was worried of her being accused of doing anything improper with men. I don't want to take that chance. You stay away from the men. You just stay with with the daughters. Ki Rut davka imahen. Rut seemed to be very much close to these girls. ואמר לה שכמו שעשתה עד עתה לדבק עם נערותיו, כן תעשה במה שאחר זה. Just like until now I saw you mingling with the girls, stay with the girls. And he continues in number 18, pasuk tet. עינייך בשדה אשר יקשרון והלכתי אחריהן. Keep your eyes on the field where they are reaping and follow them. הלא ציוויתי את הנערים בביתי נוגך. I even told the boys not to bother you, not to molest you, not to touch you. They are not to do anything to you.
No boys.
No boys.
That's what I told you.
Ve'tzamit ve'alach de la kelim. And when you are thirsty, go to the kelim. Ve'shatit me'asher yishavun ha'ne'arim. That's when you can go and drink from where the boys drew water from the well. So the Malbim says, I'm not going to read this Malbim inside. This was actually a special well. They called it the waters of Chokhmah, that the Sanhedrin used to go there and drink. I guess this water had holy powers. A lot of people used to go there to drink. So the boss told her, you can go drink there, but don't go and draw the water from there. Because the water is always, when you're drawing the water, the boys are going to be there. I don't want you near the boys. You can go drink the water that they've already drawn. That's okay. If you want to gain this water of Beracha, of this wisdom. Alright, that's what the Malbim says in short. Ruth is so overwhelmed. She's so happy. She met a person that is treating her nicely. Vatipol al panea, vatishtachu arza. She fell on her face and bowed down. Vatomer elav, madua matzati chen beinecha le'akireni, v'ani nochriya. I'm a stranger here. What did you find in me that you're treating me so nicely? She's humbled. Vayan Boaz vayomer la. Boaz tells her, what are you talking about? Hugadli kol asher asitim chamotech. It was told to me everything that you did to your mother-in-law. Achare mot ishech, and then after your husband died, vatazvi avich veimech ve'eretz molatech, and then you left your father, you left your mother, you left where you came from, vatelechi elama shelo yadatem mor shishom, and you come and join a nation that you never knew before. This is incredible. How can I not respect you? I should be respecting you. Boaz is telling Ruth. And then the beracha, Yeshalem Adonai pa'olech, uti maskurtech shelema, me'im Adonai Eloi Israel, asher bad lachasot tachat kenafav. May Hashem reward your deeds, and may He give you full payment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu should provide you with full payment for you coming underneath His wings. And this is how we end the first part of the Haftarah. We in Chutz La'aretz, we divide the Haftarah in two parts. And this is the end of the first part, right? Yeshalem Hashem pa'olech, with this bracha. So now the Malbim says something very nice over here, and he says that in essence there's two brachot here. He says what you did for to your mother-in-law, Hashem should pay you back for your deeds. Yeah, it's a busy night here tonight, huh? Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
You guys ever heard about vibrate?
And however, he said, but the fact that you converted, that is something beyond. He says there's a po'al. A po'al is a worker who I hire you to do this job. Every time you make me a suit, I pay you for the suit. That's a po'al, right? Same thing. Yeshalem Hashem pa'olech. You did a mitzvah, God's going to give you a reward. You did this, every mitzvah you do, you're like a po'al. But then there's things that transcend beyond that, which is your conversion. Then it becomes a maskurtech, like a salary, where I'm hiring you to build my house. And whether that takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I'm giving you a set sum. So it's here I am, and I'm giving you a tremendous reward for what you've done, just because you've accepted Yadut. So he said that's why you have two different. There's a pa'olech and there's a maskurtech. So there's two payments involved over here, and Boaz is tremendously thrilled with what she did. Yes.
This whole part of this whole conversation, was it the first meeting or was it like...
This was their first meeting.
First meeting, this whole thing happened.
Yes. Okay. Says Rut, Pasuk Bet, Yud Gimel, which is number 24. Vatomer, she answered, Em sachen be'enecha Hashem ki nichamtani. Be'enecha Adoni ki nichamtani. You are most kind that you've comforted me. V'chidibarta alev shivchatecha. And you spoke nicely to me. V'anochi lo ayeh ke'achat shivchatecha. And she said, I'm not going to be like one of your other maidservants. Right? Even though I'm not like one of your other maidservants. Any chashuva, Rashi says in Cafe, any chashuva ke'achat min hashefachot shelcha. How can you even compare me to the other girls? I'm a nobody. I'm a convert. So what does Boaz say here? Vayomer la Boaz le'et ha'ochel. When it came time for dinner at the end of the day, what does he say? Goshi halom ve'achat min alechem. Come over here, take some bread. V'tavalt pitech b'chometz. Dip your bread in vinegar. V'teshev beyad mitzad ha'kotzrim. And she sat down next to the reapers. Vayitzbot la kali. He gave her roasted grain, vatochal vatispa vatotar. She ate what was given to her, and she even had some left over. So Rashi says, what is the significance of dipping your bread in chometz? Mikan shachometz yafeh lesharav. That vinegar is very good for extreme heat. If you guys ever want to try it, it's up to you. But somehow, if you dip your bread in vinegar, a sharav is a strong, like a heat wave, right? That when you're out for a long time and you need to recuperate your body, chometz. Now this pasuk has tremendous hidden meanings to it, and the Gemara goes on many Gemarot. I quoted all of them over here for you on what exactly this means here. Come here, take the meal, dip the bread in the vinegar. He handed her roasted grain. What does this all mean over here? There's a deeper significance to this. I don't know if I want to go through all the Gemarot, but maybe let's just look at one of them over here, which is number 28. You guys can read the other ones on your own, but you'll get the idea of what this is talking about. So the Gemara wants to elucidate these psukim, and they want to be doresh the psukim as follows. Vayomer la Boaz le'et ha'ochel goshi halom. Means come over here. Goshi halom. Come over here. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Remez ramazla. He gave her a hint. He hinted her something, a prophecy. Atida malchut bet David latzet mimech. When he told her, come over here, he was hinting to her, you should know that David HaMelech is going to come from you. Dichtiv behalom. Because also by David HaMelech is the word halom used, which is the same word that he used to her. Goshi na halom. Shneimar, vayavo HaMelech David, and David HaMelech came, vayashov lifnei Hashem, and he sat in front of Hashem. Okay, vayomer mi anochi adusham, mi anochi Adoni Hashem, umi beti ki eveti ad halom. Who am I, God? Who is my family that you've brought me to here? Halom. Okay, so the fact that David HaMelech used halom, Boaz had Ruach HaKodesh, must have had Ruach HaKodesh. He used the same word. He says you should know that David, something great is going to come from you, David HaMelech. Now, there's a big machloket whether these individuals know this at the moment. This is a conversation for another time. Like when you say that Boaz didn't know David, but David was not born yet, right? So you have to say that he said this beruach hakodesh. This is what ruach hakodesh means. That Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring words into your mouth that you don't know what you're saying yet, but you use that word, and that word halom was going to be repeated by David HaMelech. So really, the connection is being made by God. Did Boaz know that David HaMelech was going to say this? No, he didn't know David HaMelech was going to say this. But this is how these people spoke with Ruach
So like
HaKodesh.
B'diavad now.
But yeah, but now we can see the connection ourselves because we're living 2,000 years later. And then the Gemara says, "V'taval pitech b'chometz aman bilazar mikan shachometz yafeh l'sharav."
Is this word not used anywhere else? Why?
I don't know. I guess this is the connection the Gemara found. So there's two other connections here in 29 and 30. You guys can go over it, I guess.
Who's
But-
the narrator of Megilat Rut? Who wrote it?
So we said that. Wait, that's about Batra wrote. Was it Shmuel? I think it was Shmuel who wrote. I think it was Shmuel that wrote Ruth, I believe. I think it was Shmuel.
Shmuel Hanavi?
I think it was Shmuel and Abi. Yeah, that's what the Gemara says. Okay. Okay, so let's look at number 31. Let's just turn the page over again. You guys can read that if you want. It's just pretty much the same idea, just different opinions as to what it's hinting to. Batakum lelaket. So after dinner, she went back. Okay, we're not done yet. Let's go back and get some more. Batakum lelaket. Vaitzav Boaz and Na'arav lemor. Boaz again command his workers. Gam ben amarim telaket lo tachlimua. Not only let her collect, but also don't bother her. Don't embarrass her. Don't interfere with what she's doing. V'gam shol tasholula min hasevatim. Also, pull some stalks out for her. Get them ready. Va'azavtem velikta velo tigaru ba. And leave them there. Meaning as if to say like, normally you would probably collect all, purposely leave something for her. So she could collect it and don't bother her, don't scold her. V'telaket pasadeh ad ha'arev. She collected until the evening. V'tachbot et asheriketa. She beat out what she gleaned, because that's the process. You gotta get the kernels out. V'hi ke'efa se'orim. It turned out that she collected 1 ephah of barley. So,
Simple question.
yeah.
Why can't you just give her a bunch?
That's a good question. I would have to answer because there's a lot of poor people there. There's a lot of poor people in this field. I'm going to show why are you giving that person like this was expected. This was common that the poor people would come into the fields, the mitzvah and Torah, and go and collect what was left over. So if one guy said here take, nowadays we're used to here take. Right? Because we don't have fields, but that's the way it was. I guess it wouldn't look good in the eyes of. So I put in a note here. I saw some few things here. Mami uchad b'mashe kamal aleket. What's special? Again, elahora lanu godez rizuta. It shows us how diligent she was and how quick she was. Ki derech misha achal lasova. Normally, when a person eats a meal and is now full, right? Because the pasuk before said she was full, right? After you eat dinner, after you eat Shabbat, you did the dafina, you want to go sleep. Yeah, you're not going to go and do work. No. V'gam lashon me'at, aval lo hi. V'gam lishon me'at, even to sleep a little bit. Not her. She got up and she went back to work because she needed it. So it shows us rizuta. Shol tashol Rashi says, shachoach tishkechu asu atzmechem kilu atem shochim. Pretend, make it seem like you forgot it, so that she can collect. Ada Aref, she collected until the evening. Ba katuv lesaper b'shivha. The pasuk comes to tell her again her praise. She'afal pi shera'ata nedivut libo shel Boaz shetziva lena'arav lo likta min hamuchan ela likta basadeh min ha'efker. As much as Boaz told his servants leave for her and prepare it for her, she figured it out. And she said, no, I'm not going to get from there. I don't want to be different than everybody else. That's why the pasuk says, Vatelaket pasadeh. She went to the field where she was normally. And that's why she needed to go all the way till the night. Otherwise, she didn't need to go all the way to the night. It was all there for her. It was ready for her. Here, thank you very much. Right? Thank you for forgetting, and I'm out. No. She had to go to the night because she didn't want to take from what was ready.
Wow, she's a.
It's like, don't do me anything.
Yeah. Then I take the easy route. Now, let me just.
So look how much she took. Ke'efa se'orim, that's the next page. Ke'efa se'orim shesharta bracha b'maaseh yadea. Look at the bracha that she got in that one day. Shebeyom echad lakta shalosh se'in kechamisha yamim. She took like 5 days worth.
What's an efa?
A lot.
It's a measurement.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Shalosh se'in.
Kilo, 2 kilos.
Right? Efa se'orim, it's a measurement. I don't know.
For 5 days.
5 days. She took for 5 days worth.
In one day.
She's not allowed. She's only allowed to take up to 2.
Who said?
Okay. We have a few more minutes left.
You
And
already
I
said?
think it's, I didn't hear, sorry?
You said.
She's only allowed to take 2 bushels, right? Or whatever.
No,
15.
2 stalks at a time.
A day.
No. 2
At a
stalks.
time. Every time
As you
down
walk.
or whatever.
You see 2 stalks, you're allowed to take.
And then
And then what?
Then you
Keep on going.
Keep on taking
Keep
2
on
stalks.
scouring. Yeah, that's the fields are
Massive. Right.
massive.
I don't get it.
It's not like you're 2 stalks and I got to go to someone else's field. No, if they were left, that's what the leket is. Shicha is forgotten. Leket is what you see on the floor, and pe'ah is the corners. Right. So pe'ah is the corners of the field that you cannot touch. You have to give to the poor people. Right. That probably involves more work because the poor people actually have to sit there and harvest it themselves versus these ones that you can find. Right? There's a lot of halachot to this. It's just giving you the general idea. All right, we have a few minutes left, and I want to get through the next thing because it's just a beautiful ideas here that I thought are really good. If you guys can hang in there a little bit more, it would be great. Vatisa vatavo ha'ir. She carried it back with her and came to the city. Vaterech hamotat asher liketa. And she saw her mother-in-law. And when her mother-in-law saw what she took, she gave her what she had left over from her eating. Naomi tells her, where did you go? Where did you work? Well, may that person be blessed. Because look, she saw all the amounts that she got. So she told her mother-in-law, Et asher asta imo, whom she worked with. Boaz. You know who that person was? Who I did the work with? Boaz. Look at the midrash in Vayikra Rabbah written in Lamed Dalet. Tane Rabbi Yehoshua. And we're going to come upon this concept later. Yoter mima she'bal habayit yoseh im ha'ani. More than what you think the rich man, the balabait, does for a poor, ha'ani oseh im balabait. The poor person does more for that guy. Sheken Rut omenet le Naomi. Rut tells Naomi, Shem ha'ish asher asiti imo hayom Boaz. The name of the man that I did imo, for him. Boaz. Who did for who? You would think he did for her, right? He gave her the food. He set it up for her. Ruth says, the name of the man that I did for him, Asher asai mien ketiv kan. The pasuk doesn't write what he did for me. The pasuk writes what I did for him. El asher asiti imo, amra la harbe peulot vetovot asiti imo hayom bishvil perusa shenatan li. You don't know what I did for Boaz because he had the chance to do tzedakah for me. When you internalize this concept, and we're going to see more of this later on, we'll see it in the next pasuk, that people think that the guy giving tzedakah is doing the poor man a favor. It's the other way around. The poor man is giving you the opportunity to do the mitzvah. You should be thanking the poor man that he came knocking at your door. If only people had this idea in their head when people come to collect, that they're doing you the favor. And it's continued in the next pasuk. Vatomer Naomi lekalata. Naomi tells her daughter-in-law, Baruch hu Lashem asher lo azav chasto. Blessed be Hashem who did not fail his kindness. Et ha'chayim et ha'metim. for the living and for the dead. Naomi told her daughter-in-law, Karov lanu haish. You should know that man is related to us. Migoalenuhu. He is one of our redeeming men. Migoalenu. He's one of the guys who could enter our family to take the place of my husband who passed away and your husband that also died. So, along the same concept, we'll see in the Malbim, but first Rashi says, Et ha'chaim et ha'metim, shezan umfarnes et ha'chaim, that he gave sustenance to the Chaim, v'nitpal betzorchei metim, and he also deals with the needs of the dead. Look at what the Malbim says. V'tomer Naomi lekalata, techila natna lo beracha. At first she gives him a beracha, shelo azav chazot ha'chaim. First she gives Boaz, even though Boaz is not there, she's giving a beracha out loud that Hashem should hear for the chesed that he did with the Chaim. Ki evina she'asa zo lefarnes. She understood that Boaz did this to give us food. So, okay, beracha number one for what you did for the people alive. Ayedei kach bechavod and Naomi to give honor to Naomi. Verut shehem Chaim. Naomi and Ruth, which were alive. Vehem mishpachto, and were part of her family. ואת המתים, how did he do חסד with המתים? כי הבינה גם כן שיעשה חסד עם המתים על ידי ייבום. Because Naomi knew Boaz is now going to come and join our family through Yibum. He has to take the place of Elimelech who passed away, or sorry, Machlon who passed away. He has to take that place. Now, if Boaz is going to marry Ruth, okay, then he's doing chesed with the metim, with those that already died. Because that's essentially what Yibum is. Yibum is the guy gets married and dies without any children. So who's going to keep the legacy of that person's name? He has no children to continue his name. So comes in the guy who's Me'abem, the Goel, the Redeemer. He's coming to redeem that person who had no children. So you're doing a chesed for the guy that's dead. That's what you're doing a chesed for. Shebazeh yaseh tova lenefesh hamet. Right? So, and that's the whole idea. And he continues over. When the Redeemer comes and marries the widow, he is essentially sustaining the name of the guy who died. This is the chesed of the metim. And we'll do one more and we'll end over here. Amar Rabbi Shmuel, again the same line. Bo'ure kama kocha shel tzedakah. Look how great the power of tzedakah is. Boaz gadol ador haya. Boaz was the gadol ador, right? Ve'aisha asta oto karov. The poor woman Naomi made him the relative. Karov lanu ha'ish, she says. That man is a relative to us. We're not a relative to him. We don't need him. He needs us. Ha'ish tafel la. The man was secondary to her. Velo amra anu mikerovav shel oto ha'ish. She didn't tell Ruth, we are relatives of his, but he is a relative of us. Sheken hu aderech mi nitle bemi katan nitle begadol. Normally, who's dependent on who? The small one is dependent on the greater one. So if I'm saying that he is our relative, that means we're the gadol over here. So Naomi's telling Ruth, we're the ones who are bringing greatness to him. It's because of us. That's a koach of tzedakah. That's a koach of tzedakah. Not to think that it's the other way around. Oh, we're his relatives. No, he's our relatives. He's going to come and do us a favor. How? And it's all going to start by tzedakah. We'll continue the story next time. Chazak u'baruch.